Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're here. We've had you on I guess almost a year ago. We were talking about it off air. But if you want to introduce yourself, and we'll kind of get started there.
Yeah, no problem. My name is Garrett Hardee. I am the owner of Hippie Camper and Hound Harvest.
Yeah.
It's good to be back. I know last year we talked about Hound Harvest a little bit, introduced it. So now we're here to talk about it fully.
Yeah, I'm excited. So
Yeah.
we had the Hippie Camper episode about a year ago. You made the announcement on the episode for the first time, kind of publicly, that you're doing Hound Harvest. Talk a little bit about sort of, I guess, from last September, October timeframe when we had you on to kind of April, May when you officially opened. What did that process look like for Hound Harvest?
Right. Yeah. It was a lot of work, a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears, construction, design, branding, a lot went into cleaning up that location. There was it was overgrown. It needed a lot of work aesthetically.
Yeah.
Because it was built in 1920s, so it's an old house. It's been several businesses. I think everybody has a memory in that building, whether it be good or bad, because I know it used to be doctors and then furniture stores and boutiques. And but Ashley moved in there and kind of made it a kitchen and made it a little easier for another restaurant to come in and kind of take her place. And,
so
she moved on.
Yeah, because I guess you got it shortly after Mason-Dixon made their move to their Church Street location. Y'all acquired that location, which is on the corner of Bob Wallace and Whitesburg.
Right.
So it has a nice little outdoor area, the kitchen inside, pretty small parking lot, which we'll probably talk a little bit about sort of like the growth and how you've had to deal with that a little bit. But for those that are listening that maybe have not heard your Hippie Camper episode and kind of know a little bit about your background, can you give it sort of a summary of your background kind of prior to being in the restaurant industry? Sort of, are you originally from the Huntsville area, and sort of what were you doing prior to kind of getting into this field of entrepreneur and restaurant owner?
My dad was a Marine, so we ended up like settling here. He retired here. So I went to Bob Jones, graduated from Bob Jones, then went off to Alabama, graduated from there with a business degree. Worked for the government for about 8-10 years, and then kind of got tired of that at an early age and decided, now's a good time, still young, to be able to, start a business, and see how it worked, learn the ins and outs of, how to operate a business. And I think that really helped me to get to the point of having a brick and mortar location partnership.
Yeah.
To be able to kind of have a flagship spot for Hippie and for people to be able to get a lot of healthy options and vegan options as well.
Yeah, because so Hippie Camper was truly your first introduction to being a business owner. You've grown Hippie Camper over the years. Right. It's super successful now. You're at a lot of different events, a lot of different things. Hound Harvest was, like you said, your first brick and mortar location.
Right.
As you were kind of going through the build out process for Hound Harvest and kind of already had that knowledge of Hippie Camper, of like how to grow the business and how to like manage, market it, and all of that. What sort of things were you unaware of that were becoming that were not necessarily issues, but things you had to think about a little bit differently having a brick and mortar location versus Hippie Camper?
Right. Parking is one of them. Also, basically the design and the permits and the zoning and a lot of stuff like that. I knew the contacts and everything, but I didn't know how deep it was as
100%.
far as that location specifically, because it is kind of in the corner of a neighborhood. So they do consider it a residential commercial spot. So there's a lot more hurdles to jump to actually be able to do what we want. And we're still in the process of that. So we have a lot of stuff we want to do, but we have to do it the right way. So we're slowly getting there. We had a big idea and then kind of had to tailor it to meet the needs of the city and the requirements. So now we're trying to figure out how to do what we want to do. As far as that's concerned.
Because so you opened the doors in April, May timeframe. What did that initial opening look like? Like, what was the success for the city? Just the success for that location? Because I think when a lot of people in my head, I think as most people might think, the area is high, there's lots of traffic coming by the area. So there's a lot of people are seeing you, but some people I would think might be like, hey, I don't know about eating somewhere down there.
Right.
What did that initial opening look like for Hound Harvest?
Yeah, I knew it was a great location. We did a lot of shopping for real estate over the 2 years prior to finding this location. Luckily, I had a relationship with Ashley. She catered my wedding, so it kind of just slid right into our lap. And I knew the location was great, and that's the first step is to find a great location
for sure.
And then once we got in, there was a lot more to it than we expected from the outside.
100%.
Once you peel back everything, then you find a lot more issues that you have to address. So that kind of delayed our opening a little bit. We wanted to kind of be more towards the first of the year, but, just like any plan, stuff can happen and it gets pushed back, and that's exactly what happened. And fortunately, we were able to get open a little, before right when the weather warmed up. So I think that was good to be able to open up for the weather, because we have such a great outdoor space for
100%.
Families and kids and dogs and all that good stuff. So
yeah, because I think I visited there for the first time. I guess we're recording this in September. I probably was visiting there maybe July timeframe was my first time visiting.
Yeah.
And it was a lunch. And the first thing I noticed, the parking lot is packed.
Yeah.
So there is that. It's like, okay, like this is I'm excited to try it. I'm excited to try the menu. You go in there. I think I had the tacos and they were incredible. But the patio space, I know when we talked about Hound and Harvest for the first time about a year ago, a big catering thing that you were kind of looking for was the dinner aspect, hey, coming in, having drinks, hanging out on the patio space when it gets cooler too, and you're able to hang out and it not be so hot.
Right.
And you've kind of made that shift since we're recording this in the last probably month or so. You've made that shift in how offering dinner. If someone's listening, maybe hasn't been to Hound and Harvest, what would the experience be for their lunch and maybe now dinner kind of options that you offer?
Yeah, and the reason we did that is we wanted to get open before we got our liquor license, just to be able to kind of figure everything out. And so we opened up for breakfast and lunch. And then once we did get our liquor license, that's when we kind of shifted towards lunch and dinner and drinks. And now that we're doing that, we're starting to play with different menu items for dinner. To kind of expand our menu. Now we have, several beers, wines, and cocktails as well.
Wow.
As the food that's really good. So, like I said, we're also looking to add an Airstream in the backyard as a bar. So once we get past, that hurdle, I think that's going to make the backyard experience even better.
Yeah.
We want to do live music. That's another hurdle we have to get past. So
yeah, because I guess being in the residential area, there's a lot of restrictions as far as like when you can play and when you can't, and how long and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So we want to be able to have a bunch of local musicians in the backyard and be able to make it like every night, kind of having some live music and some games, and we want to do a lot of events there. So in the future, we plan to have gazebos that you could rent out privately.
Wow.
I know we got a lot of seating back there with the picnic tables and whatnot, but it'd be nice to have your own private area to be able to,
kind of almost have like a little, like a server that's kind of on, like for you. Hey, if you need an extra drink, if you're wanting to hang out, whatever that might
almost
look
like a cabana style, but more of like a outdoor vibe for families and friends and dogs.
Yeah, and at the time we're recording this, this is the perfect time to sort of get that Airstream up and going. It's getting cooler weather, so people are really willing to hang out. Football season's here, so watching games and kind of having that sort of tailgate-esque experience without necessarily being at a tailgate.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's going to be a cool aspect of it once we get there, is being able to, have a bunch of people in the backyard to be able to, have cocktails and have really good food and, watch a game. We plan to have a bunch of vendors set up back there, doing markets and stuff like that in the future. So we have a lot of grand plans for the backyard. We just got to do it, do it in the right steps.
Yeah. So and there's a lot of synergy between Hound and Harvest and Hippie Camper. So if someone was to come in to Hound and Harvest and kind of they know you for Hippie Camper and they come into Hound and Harvest for the first time, what are some of the similarities and some of the things that they can experience that they maybe have seen at Hippie Camper before?
Good question. The idea was to have a lot of a plant-based influence on the menu. So we offer all of our baked goods when you walk in are plant-based. You can't tell by the taste. You wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah.
Then we have a grab-and-go cooler that has all of my good juices that sell really well. We got our chickpea salad in there, our pimento cheese. We have kombucha and parfaits and overnight oats.
Wow.
So there's a bunch of stuff you can just grab and go if you're in a hurry. We have a full coffee bar as well that offers oat milk for any drink that you want. So you have that option as well. Any coffee drink can be made vegan. Then the menu itself is very heavily plant-based. Every single category has several plant-based options or can be made plant-based if you ask. So it's basically a restaurant where the whole family can come.
Yeah.
You warned me about that. And feel comfortable,
sure.
Ordering. Because I remember whenever I first got into the vegan, it was rare to be able to go to a restaurant and, be able to order something that is on the menu and not have to adjust anything, So I think that was important for me to be able to offer a place where anyone can come, whether you're a vegan or a meat eater, and everyone can find something that they're going to enjoy.
And
really,
and a big part of the menu too is I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, there is gluten-free options as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, all your tacos are corn.
Well, they can be. We have flour and corn, so we have gluten-free bread and non-gluten-free bread. So it's basically any allergy you have. We try to on the menu specify the main ones, but if you come in and let us know what you're allergic to, we try to be very specific on, what you can have and try to talk you through the menu so that you feel comfortable ordering.
Yeah, because my mother-in-law and brother-in-law are both celiac, and so like for them being able to find a place that offers something for me that's not, and something for them as well is sometimes it's gotten easier in Huntsville. I think a lot more people have catered to it, but it's always a nice feature when you go someplace and you have that option.
Agreed. Yeah.
And it kind of offers a different environment for people just to enjoy something. As
very inclusive,
for sure, and I think that's a huge part of what you're trying to do. And in the area that you're at, I mean, with the residential aspect and kind of being in that kind of outside of the Twickenham area, outside of the downtown area, but still in a good spot that's easy for people to access.
Right.
As you've kind of grown Hound and Harvest over the last 4 months, you've seen things that have worked, you've seen things that maybe haven't worked. If you were to think through this last 4 or 5 months of kind of the initial opening to where we are now in September, what are some things that you thought would do really well that maybe didn't, or what are some things that maybe that you didn't think were going to do well that maybe did do really well?
Right. I think the parking was something we did not anticipate.
Really?
Because whenever we got the property, we leased both buildings so we could have all of the parking. So we figured that would be plenty of parking, but apparently it's not, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about that at all. But the parking was definitely something that we overlooked, and the amount of people that maybe carpool or Uber or bike from the surrounding neighborhoods. We just got a bike rack. We're partnering with Rocket City e-bikes to do a Bites and Bikes night. So we're trying to influence people that are close to be able to bike there,
sure.
or walk or with your dogs or whatever. But we're trying to make that. I even got an e-bike so I could cut down on the parking spaces. So it's like that's our main struggle right now is having enough parking spaces.
And so like if someone's listening and they've either been before, they haven't been before, and they get there and there is a trouble parking, where are some spots maybe around Hound and Harvest that you'd recommend, or maybe good spots for them to park and kind of either walk down the street to, or like where would you recommend them park if the main parking lot is full?
You're welcome to park in the neighborhoods around, just on the street. I mean, it is public parking, so several people do that because they know that. But if you're not aware, you're definitely allowed to do that.
For sure. And I think that was sort of the kind of the aha moment for me is like, I mean, I have a F-150, so like I have to kind of at least be aware of where I'm going to park to make sure I can get out and not hit anybody.
Exactly.
And so when I first came there, I looked at the parking lot, and I was like, I don't think I can make this happen. Like there was a couple spots that I was like, I don't want to get stuck and make it an issue. And so I was able to kind of circle around and park on the streets around the corner and just walk over. And I honestly, like if you're listening to this and you go, and so this episode is probably releasing in November, we're recording in September, the weather would be relatively nice. So like parking a little bit of a block or two away is not going to be an issue. It's going to be one of those things that you're kind of going to enjoy, especially at the end of the night when you finish having the drinks, finish having your food, and you kind of walk back to your car. Yeah. It's a good spot to be.
And even Mayfair is right down the road. Mayfair Park, there's a baseball park right there with a huge parking lot. So if you want to bring your dogs and your kids and get a nice walk in before and after your dinner or after the baseball games right there, I mean, it's a few blocks down the road.
Yeah,
so.
and a big part of the outdoor space is that you are dog friendly. And you encourage people to bring their dog and kind of hang out outside, and kind of has that dinner, now offering dinner, has that kind of pushed people to kind of, hey, like, we can bring our dog, we can sit outside, and it's more of a destination spot than just a, hey, quick grab and go spot.
Right, and that was the idea overall, was to make it a spot where you can hang out for hours, and, not feel rushed or cluttered or, so there's plenty of space back there for you to spread out. We try to ask people to keep their dogs on their leash. Don't bring them inside the house.
Yeah.
So we've had several people who wonder, if we bring their dog, how do we order? Because you have to go to order inside at the bar. Yeah. So we've asked them, if you call ahead and just tell us your name and your plan to just come sit in the backyard, we're happy to bring your food out to you.
For sure.
So there's places for you to tie up your dogs. There's There's chalk and, games for the kids, and, there's a football out there, frisbees. So, yeah, there's a garden. We started a garden out there. So we're slowly trying to build it into a destination where it's, a staple here for sure.
For sure. Yeah. And so, I mean, if I mean, one of the questions I even asked you off air that I'm excited to kind of ask you here, because we really didn't get too much into it, is you have Hippie Camper, who's continuing to grow, continuing to be at events. You're at downtown events. You're at the Arsenal. You're at all sorts of different things for Hippie Camper. You have Hound Harvest now as a full brick and mortar restaurant, and you kind of do both of those things.
Right.
How do you kind of manage your time and split your time and kind of figuring out have you had the team in place to kind of where some things can kind of be off onto someone else, or kind of how have you managed that over the last 4 months, 5 months of Hound Harvest?
I actually think the plan was to simplify it and get it all in one location, and the whole team kind of be a part of both.
Yeah.
So we've kind of gotten into the place where we have a great team that is fully aware of the food truck and also the restaurant and the combo of them. So everybody in there plays a part in both.
Okay.
So it's really, I couldn't do it without the people that are at Hound and Harvest and that work Hippie Camper, because doing it by yourself is tough. I got a few partners as well that are helping me out.
Yeah.
So don't try to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
I've tried it and I've burned myself out. So, putting good people around you, strong people and a good team around you is really what, keeps me going and, gets me, through the tough times whenever it's, I feel like I'm by myself.
Yeah. And I think which I heard this recently, which I think is a great mantra to the idea of not doing it alone, is that if you were to grow a business, any business, Hippie Camper or whatever, and you did it all by yourself, there's no golden ticket you get at the end that says, hey, you did it by yourself. Congratulations. There's no, hey, here's an extra $1 million because you did it by yourself. Mm-hmm. There's none.
It almost makes you stubborn because you're not willing to reach out and get outside advice.
And I think that's a huge, I think that's like one of the biggest aspects of the Huntsville community is that they're really willing to act. Like if you find a business owner that's been, it's 12 steps ahead of you, there's no issue with you asking them for help. And honestly, I think most of the business owners I've talked to love when they're asked for help. Like, hey, I'm trying to navigate this. Right. Yeah. It means that business owner has and it's not always about, hey, avoid, do this to be successful. It's avoid these things. These things are going to be tough things for you to do, and avoid those if you can. Right. And it's like, okay, well, here's the direction I need to go then. And it kind of gives you a whole new mindset. Yeah. Like I said, we're recording this in September. So if kind of what are the goals you have for Hound and Harvest kind of as the end of 2023 approaches in the beginning of 2024, some big goals, some developments, anything that people can expect to see and enjoy if they'll listen to this in November when it's aired. Yeah.
We plan to bring breakfast back. It's not over with for good. We do brunch on the weekends, so we do offer our breakfast menu on the weekends.
Okay.
But we plan to bring back brunch as well once we get staffed up and figure out the dinner and the drinks and all that and get the Airstream going. So that's one of the main big plans for the backyard is the Airstream, lights, pavilions, live music. So
is the Airstream going to be someone else's business, or is it going to be Hound and Harvest?
No, it's Hound and Harvest.
It's just going to have your Airstream is just going to be a place where if you were living in the neighborhood or you ride your bike, you could just go and get a drink without having to go inside.
Correct. It'll be set up in the backyard. So
Perfect.
It'll be a full operational bar in the backyard. So you won't have to go inside to place your food order, your drink order. It'll kind of all be centralized right there.
Wow.
You're welcome to go inside and do it how we do it now, but that's just going to kind of open up a whole new avenue.
So you have a whole other point of sale system.
Correct.
That you can just order your food and get a ticket and they'll bring the food outside. You don't have to go inside at all.
Exactly. So I think that will solve that issue of, how do we get inside to order if we have our pets and our family. So that's kind of the grand plan in the overall concept. And also we put in a to-go window.
Okay.
So we're eventually going to have an app where you can pre-order, come pick up in the window so you don't have to go inside and wait in the line. And because it does get cluttered in that little house. I mean, it gets loud, it gets hot because, you got people going in and out.
The doors are always opening.
Yeah, exactly. So, with the old building like that, it's just something you have to, learn to deal with. We're doing the best we can to make customers happy. I know flies were bad earlier, so we got a bunch of fly fans, so we're doing the best we can as we get this feedback because
100%.
Without knowing you
can only expect so much prior to actually opening.
Right.
There's only so many things you can plan for, so many things you can kind of, hey, I think this is going to be an issue. I think this is going to be an issue. Even when you have a soft opening, that still doesn't really account for what a real day at Hound and Harvest is going to look like.
It takes a good 6 weeks to figure out all the ins and outs and the issues, and so if you came the first 6 weeks and you had a terrible experience, or the ticket time took forever. We've streamlined everything since then. So, but like you said, you can't you don't know that stuff until you actually do it. So
Yeah, 100%.
people can delay their openings all they want to, but until you actually open, you're not going to know all your issues.
Yeah, and honestly. I think that was one thing that I was really impressed with, is that time from when I ordered the food and when we got our table outside to when I actually had food was super quick. And that was like when I was like, okay, this isn't really nice, and like it's a great spot for lunch. It's a great spot for like where like for sometimes for lunch you're kind of worried about going to a place and it taking too long, or like not having the food, and like just kind of like that, all that, especially if you're having like a lunch meeting. And I think for Hound Harvest, I mean, the ability now where it's getting cooler, like today, I mean, it's beautiful outside today as we're recording this, and it's like being able to sit outside and have a lunch meeting is like a no-brainer right now. Like it's like I was at Honest having a meeting this morning, and it was like, this is amazing. Like it's so nice outside. So there's a new question we've sort of started asking, which I think it's interesting to see, because you have a pretty successful entrepreneurial journey from Hippie Camper now to Hound and Harvest. There's always new things you're hoping to accomplish in the businesses and whatever it might be. If you were to see a news article for Hound and Harvest in the next 3 years, what would you want that news article to say, the headline to say?
Yeah. We plan to replicate it. We want to make it into more of a quick service style, maybe drive-through window vibes, and eventually maybe push into Madison, push into maybe college towns, Orange Beach. We've thought about Charleston. There's tons of different avenues and things that we want to pursue. So I think in the next 3 years you'll definitely see more locations in Madison County, if not the whole Southeast. Wow.
So. And I think that's such a, I think that figuring out how it works for Huntsville and making sure you're able to make sure all like, hey, here's the ins and outs of it. But obviously, as you continue to grow a business, there's going to be business continues to get harder. And as you add a new location, there's going to be new things to expect and some unexpected things you had no idea like were going to come your way. Like things that worked in Huntsville aren't necessarily going to work in Orange Beach, but vice versa. So you kind of have to navigate and kind of
pivot for the market.
Yeah, there's lots of pivoting to do. Yeah. And I think with the pivoting, I just think of the Friends episode with the couch and the stairwell. Like just pivot, pivot. And I think there's a lot of it being a business owner and an entrepreneur is you have to pivot, and like things that you think are great ideas and you start implementing them, you have to realize that maybe sometimes the idea is not necessarily the best, and having this other the feedback from the team that you have is huge in growing. And I know you talked a little bit about the partners earlier, but I mean, I think Northside Coffee is sort of the coffee within Hound and Harvest.
They were. We kind of steered away from that. We got a different supplier now. We've cut our costs there and gotten solid coffee locally. So we've kind of turned a corner there to where we've streamlined that. We've made that because we kind of got away from the breakfast for a little while. Okay. So makes sense. We do like espresso martinis, and we still offer the full coffee bar.
And then on the weekends you have the brunch.
And on the weekends we have the brunch. Yeah.
Perfect.
So we're kind of
figuring out what works.
Yeah. And I think all business owners deal with that.
Yeah.
100%. Trying to figure out the best way to cost save but still offer quality product. Yeah. And that's a constant game that restaurants.
Yeah, it's a constant give and take. You're having to figure out, like you said, what does the consumer want? What can you do as a business that works well for you, and what makes sense? Because at the end of the day, it's like the customer's looking for this kind of service, and it doesn't necessarily matter who it is that deliver. Like, what is the product that you're delivering? It's just as long as it meets that need.
Exactly.
And so you're trying to figure the best thing for the business. As you said, you're streamlining everything to make it as quick and efficient as possible. Thinking through this journey for you, I mean, from Hippie Camper, continuing with Hippie Camper to now Hound and Harvest, how much of your success would you contribute to being in the right place at the right time versus how much would you contribute to your hard work?
A little bit of both. I'll probably answer it the same way I did last podcast. Is I never thought I would come back to Huntsville and open up a business, but
and now to have two.
Right. But the trajectory of the growth in Huntsville was so obvious that it was hard not to do it here, especially with the niche of the plant-based in the South. But with our melting pot community, I think it was a great combo to get that started at an early, stage of the plant-based.
Yeah, and I feel like starting with Hippie Camper too, not having that brick and mortar, kind of allowed you to kind of figure out what sort of offerings you wanted to offer to the Huntsville community, what worked for us.
Right.
And now as it's growing and you're having so many people coming here that aren't from Huntsville originally, expecting to have some sort of plant-based option, and now you're kind of filling that spot with Hound and Harvest.
Right. Like, say, if I get a call for Hippie Camper, a food truck can only be set up so many hours a day at so many locations. So I can send them to Hound and Harvest, and they can have a great meal and a great experience. And still, support and still be able to have plant-based, but also go with their family that may not be. So I think it's a great combination of the two, to where everybody in any diet restriction, any family can come here and have a great meal and a great time.
Yeah. So if anyone's listening and they want to connect with you, they want to support you in what you're doing, follow you on social media, visit the restaurant, where can they find you and where are you available to connect?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, all the social media platforms, you can just search Hound and Harvest, AND, not the ampersand. So, I mean, we also have a website that has that's being updated constantly to reflect our menu. So you can find us, or just stop by and say hey at the Hound and Harvest. It's 2358 Whitesburg Drive. You'll see the blue fence, and it's a quaint old house and with a spacious backyard for your whole family.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll have all their information, episode notes, so all the links to your social media, directions to the place. So if you're listening and you want to get connected, just visit episode notes and you can find all the links to all their stuff. But thank you again for being here. It's been fun to have you on the second time. Hopefully in another year, we'll have you on for another business you're opening, maybe
so,
or another location for Hound and Harvest. Who knows? I mean, I think the possibilities are endless, but I continue to look forward to the growth you'll have for Hound and Harvest here in Huntsville, the growth for Hippie Camper for many, many years. And thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you too.